We are farmers at Tarrington Marsh at the bottom of the wash, just in Norfolk. We are on grade 1 silt, but some is silty clay as well as silty clay loam. And we grow for the fresh market and we supply all the major retailers. We're growing 300 acres of potatoes this year. We were a little bit less last year just due to rotation. We store on this site and also elsewhere just about 6,000 tonnes. And it's all cold store and it's all boxes. We have been using until really last year it was cold storage temperature for sprout control and then a bit of ethylene, and we've used spearmint oil as well. But we would then, since last season, well, we had 1 dose of CIPC. This year we have used maleic hydrazide for the whole crop, bar where we're going and selling potatoes before Christmas. Going forward this year, we've followed the protocols. We've cleaned, vacuumed, brushed, cleaned out the grills, the refrigeration plant and the fans. We've actually improved the insulation as well. So we ripped up all the floors and cleaned out all the floors. There were ducts underneath. We put another 2 inches of foam on, but also stopped any more air leakages because of things like ethylene and also spearmint oil treatments for stopping sprouts, and in the future DMN. We need to be a bit more airtight. We got going quite well in the beginning of September lifting, and our first crop of potatoes did 10 tonnes an acre. It is a second early and a specialist variety. The weather we've had this year has made that quite difficult, blown around with lots of serious wind, some drought, even with irrigation, and then lots of water at the end of August. The issues we've seen so far on quite a lot of the crops, we've been very careful on how we field select, and I'm always aware of things like wireworm and slug. Every 20 boxes we'll do a proper QC, 100 tubers, wash that 100 tubers, inspect it for any defects, put it on Excel, take a photograph of it, of that box, and also do a hot box of 25 tubers, and then we'll do a whole QC and peel so we can see what a hot box is and also what natural bruising might show. But slugs showing up, and the other one is wireworm. And the main reason I've seen that is that we had a very dry period in May and planting was getting quite dry, and we thought we haven't seen it, we'd test baited, but we kept applying somewhere we've irrigated in some high risk areas. But the late rain we had in August brought the moisture up, they came up to the top. Canopy was mainly flailed by then, or a lot of it was in the beginning of September, and they found potatoes. And they're not going to move away from potatoes to go outside and find some ferric phosphate. So we will set the fridge plant to about 10 degrees, and we'll run when the store is loading during the day even. We'll have the door open, the fans on, and the fridge on. So the potatoes are respiring. They're alive, and when you lifted them, they really are chucking out a lot of CO2, and they're really a bit unhappy by it all. And if we can dry and take that moisture out and avoid any condensation with airflow going all the time, we seem to be able to then help with the curing, reduce a bit of the opportunity of the skin diseases to manifest themselves. And as soon as we've got one store done, we'll close it up, and especially if it's warm potatoes going in, we'll then start cooling down straight away. We always now, on every store, have it fans running. The cost of electricity is scary, but I want dry potatoes, and I want them to cure dry. So if we've cut a few here and there accidentally, I want that wound to heal. And the best way of that is airflow and just taking the humidity out, because those potatoes are putting a lot of moisture out and CO2. And if we've got some really wet, damp, claggy soil on there, we'll even put a Weatherspoon tent together in a lean-to even there, and just turn the fans on and just try and suck as much air and airflow through as possible to dry it and crack it. We've got a couple here that are force ventilation with tunnels underneath, and it'll blow it through, but we've got some that will chuck it over the top. But we've gone and put dividing the walls, and the aim is that then there we are actually forcing the air through the box ends or the pallet tine ends and through the boxes to try and improve the drying. Do those, and I think that's 75 to 80% of the improvement in airflow and drying on there. But it's just fans. And we've got a couple of stores that are not great with on the roof space, and we'll actually get some little fans that are 13 amp and we just have those, and we nearly, on some of them, run them forever. And we use that in any bits of little spots where it could be a little bit damper or a bit of dead air. We'll put those in and monitor them and do that. Because just keeping condensation out and keeping air movement, especially when you're drying a crop, is really important. It just helps wound healing, and also silver scurf, skin spot as well, and black dot. And the other thing we're quite aware of now is CO2. We have got monitors in the stores with 30 megahertz we've got, which does humidity, temperature and CO2, and that's on a live stream that I can look on the website on my phone. And also I can actually look in real time what the CO2 levels are like, and what I do when changing the air over can make a marked difference quite quickly. So there's a couple of stores here we seal very well. We've actually had to lift the front doors up very slightly just to have a little bit of an air exchange. So we're aiming at about under 4,000 parts per million. On all of the stores we have about one temperature probe every 50 tonnes. And I've got that, and we record that every 2 days. With an overflow, chucking it over and then having the curtains, you've got a lot of airflow coming back through, and you've got to just temper that, because you can centre it round where the fridge is and it's sucking it back in. You can get a lot more air movement there, and on the sides can be slower. We've done some developments this year following AHDB's storage work. We've switched one fridge in a 1,300 tonne store and turned it so it's facing the wall. We've improved the curtains as well. We've actually put a nice wooden stairs in for safe access. We've actually moved to 8 high as well. We're just doing the work now on checking the anemometers, but the temperature probes are showing very, very even all the way through the stack, from the top, through the middle, and at the bottom, and in the front face. So we've been mildly surprised, not from the work of what the AHDB have done, but actually seeing it in practice as well. It does give me a lot of confidence about what the AHDB storage unit are doing. You've got some expertise there who will give you the right information. As a potato grower and a levy payer, we've got to take it, we've got to use it. If we don't use it and they're doing all this work, well, we're standing still. We've got to get better. The other thing I monitor quite carefully is the electricity costs as well. We did a thing with AHDB about looking at a leaky store and a good insulated store, and seeing how inefficient the leaky store was. 8 years ago, black hearts show up in one variety because we'd sealed the stores too well. Threw away 300 tonnes of perfect potatoes. And in one other store we saw a little bit of CO2 because we'd sealed it up well, and we saw some black heart in there, and my wife had to QC every box and cut 50 tubers, and if she found a hint in one of those 50 tubers, she'd then do another 50, and if there's only another hint, then that was okay. So we're doing positive release for that, and that was 800 boxes. But from a store point of view, I'll look at between 2 and 3 days a week. I will be going and checking the store, especially in pull down. And it's so vital because you can be so busy doing other things. You've got to give yourself just 15-20 minutes, or someone else to go and look to check that everything, there's not a trip light out, or the fridge is knocked off, or fans are turned off. And also the best thing is you've got to go in the store to smell it. You must smell it, because if you can pick up a little scent of something like a little bit of blackleg or a bit of mustiness to it, you're feeling then that there's something not right. So I went in the store yesterday and we just made some curtains to improve the airflow through the boxes, but it just meant that those 2 side boxes at 2 high were a little bit less airflow, a little bit blocked, and you could just see there was a little darker when you got your head torch on. Didn't seem like the airflow was just enough to take that respiring moisture off. So I just moved those curtains a little bit just to get a bit more airflow through. If you've got some issues in the box, at least know what they are, so you know what to do, and just blow, inspect, and keep sampling. With the marketplace it is at the moment, we have reduced our acreage by 15%, because I can't see a margin. I don't want to take the risk. With COVID still about, we don't know when our demand will be coming up. One thing I really want to do for the potato industry, and especially for the pre-pack, is getting exciting potatoes that people actually say taste great. Oh, no, we've had a couple of emails this year already, in this autumn already. Pleased to see these potatoes are back on the shelves. Taste great, thank you very much. And we had some woman from Sheffield ringing up and saying, is that Mr. Mark Means? We'd just like to compliment, this is how potatoes used to taste. So we're very fortunate with the soil we've got. We've got a lot of minerals in there. We can get, it seems to add a bit more flavour to it as well. And I'd love to be storing at 5 or 6 degrees centigrade, using DMN, putting the potato to sleep, keeping the sugar content low, and giving the customer a great satisfaction that actually this is what they do taste like. That's my ideal.